Hi guys, welcome to another session of News in 30 minutes. Today, let us look at some of the important issues on the 7th of December 2023. And I hope you are making notes of all the issues and you are filing these notes in accordance to the GS papers that the issues fall under. Okay, so with that, let us start with the News in 30 minutes on the 7th of December. The first issue is multi-dimensional poverty index reduction under the NDA is flawed. Okay, see, the multidimensional poverty index exaggerates the National Democratic Alliance's success in fighting deprivation. Now, if you look at this article is mainly political in nature. And whenever the article is written from political angles, whenever the author is talking or arguing from political perspective, these articles should not be used in your answers. Don't use the perspectives in your answers. Okay, because the basic reason for writing this article will be to criticize the government of the day. It will not feel or it will not do good for aspirants who are aspiring to get into the system, trying to criticize politically about what is the developmental works being done by the government of the day. Okay, hence it is always advised for you people not to take such articles and write it down. However, you can always use the stats or examples or the case studies that is there in this such articles. Like what I'm going to teach you now, I usually have taken this particular the stat from this article, and I'll use that stat to demonstrate how the government of the day has helped fight poverty. Okay, the reason why I've taken only this much is because this is useful to me as per the UPSC answering perspective. Okay, from the UPSC answering perspective, these are the things that are important to me. So I'm only going to take that much. The perspectives here are political, so I'm not going to take the perspectives to analyze the issue. This is how you have to decide how to take what for your UPSC preparation. Okay. Anyways, with this article, before I get into the stats that I've taken from this article, let me just give you a background of poverty. If you take poverty, there are 4 different approaches how poverty is defined. The first approach is monetary approach. The first is monetary approach. The second is basic minimum needs approach. Okay. The third is capability approach. Okay. Capability approach. And the last is social exclusion approach. Okay, these are the 4 approaches how we look at poverty. Poverty from monetary angle is basically, it looks at poverty is equal to lack of resources. According to the monetary approach, it says poverty is the reason for poverty is because they lack resources or access to the resources, and by increasing the income of this population, the population that is suffering from poverty will be able to get out of it. Okay, so it is purely the income perspective of how to solve poverty. Okay, so this is what is poverty being defined from monetary terms. Okay, poverty is simply lack of material resources. This is what is the definition of poverty from monetary approach. The next is basic minimum approach. It says poverty is defined as the state of population when they lack access to this basic minimum needs. What are the basic minimum needs? It is housing or shelter, it is food, it is clothing, it is internet also has become a very important thing now, it is drinking water. Okay, so these are some basic minimum needs. Now, if a population lacks access to these basic minimum needs, then this approach tells that the population suffers from poverty. Okay, so by giving access to this basic minimum needs, you are able to fight poverty. This is another way of looking at poverty. The next approach is the capability approach. The capability approach is given by Amartya Sen. Okay, the capability approach is given by Amartya Sen. Amartya Sen says poverty is defined as the state of population that lacks opportunities, and the reason they lack opportunity is because they lack capability, and because they lack capability, they cannot enjoy the way they value life. Okay, so only people who can enjoy the way they value life are the ones who have the capability to create opportunities or to use opportunities. And poverty is defined as those population who lack opportunities because they lack capability. And if we have to fight poverty, we have to improve the capability of the population so that they will get opportunities to make choices so that they can live a life that they value. I'll repeat again. Capability approach says that if we have to fight poverty, we have to improve the capability of the population so that they will get opportunities to create a life which they value. Okay, so this is what is capability approach of Amartya Sen. The last is social exclusion approach. This is basically equating poverty to marginalized sections or vulnerable sections. Now, when I say marginalized and vulnerable, it need not always be the lower caste, the lower class, but also the sections. For example, people with disabilities, transgenders. Okay, so these are some of the people who are usually excluded within the society and they always suffer from a kind of poverty. So social exclusion approach does not talk more about material aspects or access to material resources. Social exclusion approach fights poverty in a way of giving them social justice. So if a society is able to give social justice to all sections of the society, especially the marginalized and the so-called excluded sections, then we say that we are able to get rid of poverty. Okay, so these are the four different ways how we can analyze poverty. As I told you, this can be used in your essay as well as in your answers. So this is a way of analyzing. Now, coming to India and coming to poverty, okay, we can take the multi-dimensional poverty index. Okay, now this index nationally, the national multi-dimensional poverty index was released by UNDP along with Niti Aayog. Okay, it was released by UNDP and Niti Aayog, and according to this, if we take, they had released something called Report Card 2023. They had released the multi-dimensional poverty index report card 2023, according to which, if you take 2015 to 2016 and compare it with 2019 to 21, okay, the poverty in 2015-16 was 24.85%, and the poverty in 2019-20 is 14.96%. Look at this. This shows that there has been tremendous work done to reduce poverty in India. Yes or no? So this is good. This is how you have to portray in your answers. Now this reduction, if you see, there is reduction of 9.89% in the span of 6 years. Okay, so this reduction of 9.89% accounts to almost 135.5 million people. So in a span of 6 years, we are able to remove 135 million people out of poverty, which is a very good thing. Okay, and one more thing is, if we take the intensity of poverty, the intensity of poverty is also reduced from 47% in this time period to 44% in this time period. Okay, so this is what is the progress that is done in India regarding fighting poverty. Okay, and this is how you have to portray. It is not just portrayal, but this is how we have to always look at the positive aspect of the system rather than politically trying to criticize the government of the day. Okay, so since this is also given by the legitimate institutions like UNDP as well as Niti Aayog, it stands more correct if you give an optimistic approach rather than giving a pessimistic approach. Okay, so overall this is what India's trajectory in fighting poverty has been. So you understood the approaches to poverty in different angles, and also you understood what has been the progress of India with respect to poverty. So this stat is what I have taken from the article. I have not taken anything else, and that is how you can selectively use an article. You need not always take the entire article to use it in your answers or in your understanding. Okay, so this completes the first issue. Okay, the next issue again is something that regarding NATO. Okay, you are seeing the Russia-Ukraine war. The Russia-Ukraine war is mainly happening because of this issue called NATO. Because Ukraine wanted to become a member of NATO, which Russia did not like, because Ukraine, being a neighbor of Russia, and NATO, if the Ukraine becomes NATO member, then Russia as a NATO member neighboring its country, which Russia did not like. Overall, the NATO was one of the expansion of NATO, to be more true, expansion of NATO in Eastern Europe. Expansion of NATO in Eastern Europe was the main reason for what you are seeing as Russia-Ukraine war. Okay. However, let us see what is still happening. If you look at the headlines now, US and Sweden sign defense deal to bolster regional security. Look at this. US and Sweden are signing a defense deal. According to this, Sweden will now open its military bases. It will open its military bases to USA. Sweden will open its military bases to USA. And one more information is, Sweden is still not a NATO member. It is still not a NATO member. So, what is happening in Sweden can be considered as a precursor. What is happening in Sweden can be considered as a precursor before it goes on to become a NATO member. Okay. So, that is what is something that Russia will look at it as. Okay. That is why US and Sweden signed defense deal to bolster regional security. Now, this will definitely irk Russia. Okay. This is definitely something that will irritate Russia. Okay. Now let us look at what is the geostrategic aspect of this. What is the reason for signing of this defense deal? Okay. Before I get into that, you should develop some spatial sense. Now, what are Scandinavian nations? If you know what are Scandinavian nations include: 1, it is Norway; 2, it is Sweden; 3, it is Finland. Okay, 4, it is Denmark. Okay, so and 5 is Iceland. And Denmark has something called Greenland, that is also part of Denmark. It also has something called Faroe Islands. So Greenland and Faroe Islands are part of Denmark, so they are also part of Scandinavia. So these 5 countries put together are what as Scandinavia. Now you can see here, 1 is Finland, Sweden, Norway. Then you have Denmark. Okay, you have Denmark here. Denmark also, Faroe Island also belongs to them. Greenland also belongs to them. So there are 3 parts of Denmark, and then you have Iceland. Okay, and recently 2-3 days back you heard that Finland is accusing Russia of pushing migrants into its border. Now look at this. This is the Russian border, this is the Finland border, and there is pushing of migrants from Russia into Finland. You saw this happening. The reason why is because Finland is the most recent member of NATO. Finland became the member of NATO. It is the most recent member of NATO. Okay. Norway is already a member of NATO. Okay. Denmark was a founding member of NATO. Okay. Now, if you observe, all these are already members of NATO. If you take Denmark, Norway, Finland, they are already members of NATO. The only country in Scandinavia is this Sweden. Okay. Hence, it is feared that Sweden is also now going on to become the member of NATO. It is still not, but the signing of the defense deal, shows that the next next successor to this such deals will always be becoming member of NATO. Okay, so I hope you understood what is Scandinavia. Okay, the next is coming to Baltic Sea. Okay, now if you see Baltic Sea, one thing what you should understand is what are all the countries that are surrounding Baltic Sea. Okay, now look at this. One is Sweden, next is Finland. Then there are something called Baltic nations. When I say Baltic nations, it involves Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. Okay, now surprisingly, can you see this part? This is known as Kaliningrad of Russia. Okay, and this small part of Russia is actually there in Baltic Sea. So we also have Russia that shares a border in Baltic Sea. Then you have Poland. Okay, so overall the countries that surround, you can put Germany also if you want to. All right, so if you want to know the countries that surround the Baltic Sea, you have Sweden, you have Finland, you have Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. Then you have Russia, which is very important, and Poland and Germany. Okay, so this is how you have to recollect what are all the countries that are surrounding the Baltic Sea. All right. Now, what is the reason for Sweden to sign this defense deal? The first is because of the closeness. The first is because of the closeness of Russia. Now, if you look at Russia in the Baltic Sea, they are very close to Sweden. Okay. The second is the geostrategicness of the island of Gotland. There is something called island of Gotland. Let me just write it again. Gotland. Now, there is, threat from Russia that there can be attacks to this Gotland island. So, Gotland island belongs to Sweden. Okay. And this is known as Gotland island. Okay. This is the Gotland island. Look how close Gotland island is with Russia. Okay. So, there are chances that they can take over that. So, that is another fear that the Sweden has. The third reason why the defense deal was signed is, as I told you, this defense deal can provide a platform. It can facilitate Sweden to go on to become a NATO member. We know that other Scandinavian nations are NATO members, so it will facilitate Sweden also to become a NATO member. So these are all the strategic reasons. These are all the strategic reasons for Sweden to sign this defense deal. From your prelims perspective, what you should know is what are all the countries that are surrounding Baltic Sea, what are the 3 Baltic countries, and the border that is shared by Russia. Okay, the border that is shared by Russia. So these are some things from prelims perspective that you should have an idea about. Okay, so I hope you understood why is this particular deal going to irk Russia. Okay, so this completes this issue. The next issue is again a cultural perspective, that is Garba of Gujarat makes it to UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage Site. Okay, so you should know that there is tangible heritage sites, there is intangible heritage sites. Okay, and Garba becomes the 15th cultural item from India to make it to the UNESCO list after Durga Puja. That is, this Durga Puja was included in the list in 2021. This was the 14th cultural item to be included in the Intangible Heritage list. Okay, and the 15th became Garba in Gujarat. Okay, 2023, this was Gujarat. Okay, the Garba. Okay, so this is a good thing for India. See, what is the difference between tangible and intangible is, intangible heritage are something that is performed. It is something that is performed. So if you take tangible heritage, it can be paintings, okay, it can be buildings, it can be natural settings. So all these are tangible, something that is staying for a long time. But intangible is something that is performed. Okay, so if you don't protect this performance, less and less people will perform, and finally you will result in the entire culture getting extinct. Okay, that is the necessary or importance of protecting and facilitating the performance. If you help them keep performing, then at least there will be some amount of population who are practicing it, and this will help preserve that cultural heritage. That is the main idea of having intangible cultural heritage. Okay, so in 2003, UNESCO came up with a convention. And this convention was safeguarding. Okay, this convention was safeguarding the global intangible cultural heritage. The global intangible cultural heritage. Okay, and this India is also signatory of this, and India has, as I've already told you, 50 cultural items that are there which are protected under the Global Intangible Cultural Heritage Convention of UNESCO. Okay, so Garba is one such thing. All right, so if you look at these 15, the list of 15, you have to, from the exam perspective, you have to go one step further and try to get a more depth understanding of each of the setting item. Okay, for example, if you take Kodiatum, you try to research what is this Kodiatum, okay, and know a little bit more in depth about this, because questions can come exactly or directly from this. Okay, so one, you have Kodiatum, that is a Sanskrit theatre of Kerala. The second is Mudiyata, a ritual theatre and dance and drama of Kerala. The third is Vedic chanting, recitation of sacred Hindu texts. The fourth is Ram Leela, a traditional performance of Ramayana. The fifth is Rammam, a religious festival and ritual theatre of Garhwal, Uttarakhand. The sixth is Kalbelia, folk songs and dance of Rajasthan. The seventh is Chow dance, classical dance form of West Bengal and Odisha. It's a kind of martial arts. The eighth is Ladakh, Buddhist chanting recited in Ladakh. The ninth is Manipuri Sankirtana, ritual singing, drumming and dancing. The 10th is the articrafts or traditional brass and copper craft of utensil making. See, it is utensil making, not utensils themselves. Okay, of Tatheras in Punjab. The 11th is yoga. The 12th is Kumbh Mela. Okay, the 13th, as I told you, that I missed one, I think. Anyways, the 14th was the Durga Puja. Okay, 14th was Durga Puja, and the 15th was the recent one, that is Garba. Okay, so these are some list of UNESCO's intangible cultural heritage list. Okay, it is necessary for you people to have an idea. For example, there is one question in UPSC that has already come on Kudiyattu, and there is one question that has already come on Chow dance. Okay, there is one question that has come on Sankirtana. Okay, which instrument do they use in Sankirtana? Okay, so like this, questions will come on these things. So you should have some amount of depth in these cultural items. Okay, now if you take Garba, it is basically done during Navaratri. Okay, it is to symbolize a feminine energy, and it is basically in the worshipping of Shakti. Okay, and it symbolizes gender inclusivity. It symbolizes gender inclusivity, as well as it symbolizes social equality. Okay, and what is the best part about Garba is basically it transcends geographical boundaries. It need not be always confined to Gujarat. Not only within the states of India, but also outside India also, Garba has become very famous. Hence, Garba is rightly included within the UNESCO's heritage list of intangible items. Okay, so these are some of the important intangible items of India, and there are some given of the world also. However, these are not important for you to learn in depth, but what is important is the Indian list. So please have some amount of depth. Try to research for 5 to 10 minutes on everything and learn some useful information about these cultural items. Okay, so this is about the third issue. The next issue is the case of industrial accidents in India. Okay, now there has been an accident in Gujarat, okay, yesterday, and this accident has resulted in two workers from Bihar, okay, two workers from Bihar being killed. Okay, however, this is one such incident. Now, when this industrial accident as a question was asked in Gujarat government, in the assembly, there was a question asked to the MLA, from the Minister of Labour. The Gujarat government has given this statistics. You can use this statistics. According to the Gujarat government, okay, if you take the industrial accidents in Gujarat, it says that about 700 workers have died. Okay, the next is 213 have been injured, and there have been 587 industrial accidents overall. Okay, there has been 587 industrial accidents overall in the last 3 years, taking from 2023. Okay, in the last 3 years, there has been 700 people who have died, workers, 213 people who are injured, 587 industrial accidents. Okay, and they also say that if you take from 2020-21 to 22-23, the incidence of industrial accidents has increased by 17%. The increase of industrial accidents has increased by 17%, and the fatalities has increased by 15%. Okay, this is very, very bad when it comes to occupational safety. Okay, and this shows the apathy towards occupational safety. right? So this is the case study of industrial accidents in India. The reason I am taking Gujarat as a case study is because the government statistics is credible, and it is the Gujarat government, they themselves are accepting that this is the sad state of affairs in Gujarat. Okay, and this is not just the case of Gujarat. If you take the industrial accidents across India, okay, across India, it is the same story. Okay, our industrial safety norms are not being followed. Okay, so what exactly is the law that is allowing or regulating this safety norms? We have something called labor codes. We have something called labor code. This labor code was created in 2019. There are 4 labor codes. In that 4 labor code, one out of that 4 labor code was occupational safety, health and working conditions. Occupational safety, health and working conditions code 2019. So this was one code. Okay. Now this code will subsume under this. It will subsume under this Factory Act 1948. It will subsume MINS Act 1952. It will also subsume Contract Labor Act 1970. Then you have Dock Workers Act 1986. And the last is Interstate Migrant Labor Act 1979. Okay, so these are some of the acts that it will subsume. All right, now what does it do? As I told you, it does 3 things. One is occupational safety, the second is health of the worker, and the third is working condition of the workers. Now I am more concerned with occupational safety because my case study talks about the increasing industrial accidents in the country. So if you take the increasing industrial accidents in the country, what this code does is it sets up something called occupational safety boards. Okay, so this occupational safety boards are present both at national as well as state level, and these basically will recommend rules and regulations as well as licenses to the national and state government. Okay, so this is basically what this code does. However, looking at the amount of industrial accidents that are happening, I don't think these boards are working to their effectiveness. At least they lack proper teeth to take punitive measures for the increasing industrial accidents. This is the conclusion that I want to draw regarding the occupational safety boards. So entirely the labor as a subject falls in the concurrent list. So it is up to both the center as well as the state to make laws and regulations, and there is no coordination between them, and I think the occupational safety boards also suffer from this conundrum. Okay, they are usually suffering from this judicial overlapping. Okay, so something has to be done to improve the occupational safety boards so that they reduce the incidence of industry accidents. Okay, so this is regarding the case study of industrial accidents in India, taking the case of Gujarat. So I hope it was helpful. You can use this. You need not wait until you use this in the industrial accidents itself. You can use it in case of administrative neglect. You can use it in case of no proper or there is malgovernance. Okay, so you can use it in anywhere there is lack of proper implementation of law. You can use it in such areas, definitely. Okay, so this is what is about this article. The last is a case study about social conscience. Okay, now what I will do is I will give you a case. Okay, and I want you to think about different ethical dimensions. I want you to think about different ethical dimensions that comes to you by looking at this case. Okay, this is a case that happened in 2018. In 2018, there was a local tribal man. This local tribal man was very poor, and that person was suffering from unbearable hunger. Okay, so that person goes to a food shop, and that person steals food to satisfy his hunger. Okay, that person steals food to satisfy his hunger. Now, people will come and get to know that that person is stealing, and the moment people will get to know that the person is stealing, this tribe is beaten to death. Okay, now this is the story. Okay, this is the story that I have given you. What do you think is the social conscience in this particular case study? Okay, this case study that I have given you is the same case study that was highlighted by a person called K.P. Kannan, who recently expired. This K.P. Kannan was a scholar. K.P. Kannan was an economist, and K.P. Kannan was very significant in creating social conscience of Kerala. Okay, now when K.P. Kannan came up with this case study, and when this case study became very popular, this created a lot of developmental works in Kerala. Okay, it created a lot of developmental works in Kerala to improve the conditions of STs and SCs. Okay, so hence they tell that the social conscience of Kerala was triggered because of the case of K.P. Kannan bringing out this particular instance. Okay, but what I want you to think, what is your take ethically? What are all the different aspects that you think regarding this case study? A local tribesman was beaten to death by locals because that person was found stealing. But when you found out that person was stealing, you also understood that the person stole to satiate his unbearable hunger. This is the case that I want you to think from different ethical dimensions. You can post it in the comment section, you can write it in your own words, you can keep it in your notes, whatever it is, but I want you to develop your thinking. Okay, so think from ethical dimension. Ethical does not mean you bring ethical jargons. Think from different stakeholders. From the stakeholder of the tribe, from the stakeholder of the shopkeeper, from the perspective of the public, from the perspective of the government, okay, from the perspective of an outsider, not within Kerala itself, from the perspective of a journalist. Okay, so look at this from all these angles and take the ethical stand of what can be done, what should be done, and what has been done. Okay, that is what will help you develop the thinking mind, and this is the main objective of mine to do this News in 30 Minutes initiative. Okay, so I hope the initiative was helpful, and I hope you are liking the way you are learning current affairs. With that, if you have loved this particular initiative, please go ahead and like, share and subscribe. Please share it with all your friends so that they also can make use of it. Thank you for all the love and support, guys. I really appreciate it. I will see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.